We're almost at the end and we're ready to tie this whole thing together. See in this video how we create a label parameter, apply that to a project along with our table, and extract the data from the table into the label. So let's go take a look. In this video I'm going to show you how you can create a label that you can use to tag that furniture object that we augmented in the last video. I'll start by selecting the New button under Families and going to the Annotation folder and selecting a generic tag. One of the things I might mention is I'm going to make a number of default setups here, and you might want to create a generic tag RFT file that you can use over and over again with these settings already set for you. The first thing I want to do is go to the category section and identify this to be a furniture tag. So I'm going to select furniture tag and select OK. Here you'll see that there is this text box which is telling you some things about the family itself, how to modify it, how to use the reference planes. I'm going to show you how to do that, so I'm just going to simply select it and delete it. The next thing I want to do is I want to reduce the size of these reference planes. I'm going to type LI for line, select the circle tool, type 0.5 inches to make a half-inch diameter circle, or half-inch radius circle, and select these reference planes and reduce the size of them. The reason I'm doing that is because when I do a zoom extents, these reference planes are very, very large, and for the label I'm creating, they don't need to be that big. Once I'm done with that, I'm going to type ZE for zoom extents, select this one and make sure it's pinned, and I'm going to click on the circle and just delete that. Now I'm ready to create the label. The way I'll do that is by going to the Create tab and selecting the Label tool. When I do, I'm going to go ahead and click in an open space to place that label. I'm going to click on this button because if I look through this list, I'll see that there aren't any labels matching up what I want to add. So I'm going to click on the Add Parameters button. It defaults to the Shared Parameters. Click the Select button. Go to my test section of the parameters group and select Casework ID. Now I need to add that into this right hand side because this is where that information will get applied to the label itself. I'm going to give it a default value, and select OK. I'm going to click on the Modify button to clear my selection. Now this defaults to an Arial type font. I don't like that. I actually like a different font. I'm going to edit that type. I'm going to rename it. I'm going to call it Century Gothic. Because that's the kind of font I like to use. Set the value of the background to be transparent and set this to be Century Gothic. Now the reason I made that background transparent is that sometimes when you do exports to other file formats, the opaque background will actually wipe out the font or the text information. You won't be able to see it because it'll put a screen over it. I'm going to make the width factor to be 0.85, again another preference, and select OK, and you can see it's now adjusted itself. I'm going to use these grips to reduce the size of this overall size of this label, and I'm going to use the blue dots, the grips, as an alignment tool. So I'm just going to use my arrow keys to move it up and kind of get in the right place I want it to be, or in a close, sort of a close to where I want it to be kind of a thing. With Revit, as you know, we don't have those features of snapping things right to specific locations. And as you can see, I'm using these dashes as an alignment tool horizontally, so you can see it's pretty well aligned. And if I zoom in again, I can use a little bit of a nudge, and it looks like it's really centered now. The next thing I need to do is save this thing, so I'm going to do a save as, and it's going to be a family, and I'll go to that folder on my desktop, and I'm going to call this one ID. So if I click on options, I need to make sure I set this up to be only 3 backups. I told you about this before. That defaults to 3. I'm going to make it 1, and I'm going to select save. Now I'm done with that, and I'm going to close this, and we're going to see how this whole thing comes together. I'll open up the test project, and once it's open, at the Insert tab over in the Load panel, I'm going to click on Load Family, go to that default folder, I'm going to click on Furniture Label ID, I'm going to click on my table and select Open. Now that those are loaded, I'm going to go to the Architecture tab to place the table. And there it is in my type selector. And I'm going to place one table here, I'm going to zoom in and select the larger table and place that one. Now if I select one of these tables and go to Edit Type, you're going to see that information that we put into that label for those two parameters have been completed. I'm going to select OK, and now I want to go to the Annotate tab and select the Categories tool. And when I do that, I'm going to turn off the leader for the parameter. I'm going to select on here, Replace, and there it is. It's picking up that label ID for that particular table. And I can move that anywhere I want. And I can do the same thing for this one. In fact, I'm going to select those two things and just move them over a bit. There we go. So there you go. We have the shared parameters in the project, we have the shared parameters into the family object, and we create a label, and we applied that label to the object itself. In another video, I'll show you how you can create a label that can have both the furniture ID tag, the scoping ID tag, and you can toggle between the two of those to have either one or the other show